Masashika wonders if he really wants to make someone president. When he asks where Alia is, Kanzeki says she's off settling a dispute between the baseball and soccer teams. Apparently, both teams have asked for permission for the school field to practice for upcoming events. The soccer team has qualified for regionals, while the baseball team has pro scouts coming to observe. Normally, Chizaki would be in charge of settling disputes, but this time, she's away on officially convenient duties, so he sent Alia, who seems to be having trouble with it. Hearing this, Masashika decides to see if the groups are fighting. Meanwhile, the baseball and soccer teams are right in the middle of a stare-off while Alia watches. The guys argue over whose match is more important, but when Alia tries to chime in, the soccer team asks what her bright idea it is. Alia suggests they use the Riverside Park to practice, so the soccer team tries to throw it to the baseball team, but they refuse to budge. However, both of the team captains remain suspiciously quiet along with the management team. As the boys continue to argue, Alia starts to realize she's shit at this. That promise she made to herself all those years ago was finally coming to bite her in her well-rounded peaches. Since she's basically been a bitch to everyone, no one would ever want to listen to her. As she begins to cry, she switches to Russian to ask for help. Just then Masashika pops in and announces that he's now in charge of Student Council General Affairs and is there to help. A few seconds ago, Masashika had walked up and heard the teams barking at each other, while Maria struggled to calm them down. He knew Alia's approach was doomed to fail, but he figured it was good experience, and was really going to pretend he didn't see nothing. However, he suddenly heard her asking for help in Russian, and it was a sound his simp ears just couldn't resist. Both teams recognize Masashika from his middle school tenure, so Masashika offers up a compromise. The baseball team would practice Riverside, since they have fewer members, but in exchange the soccer team would send over some members to help with the process. The boys begin to object and Alia tries to calm them, but Masashika simply looks toward the management team. Suddenly, the head manager offers to have her team help out, so the baseball guys do a complete 180 and accept, hoping it hits something other than a home run. The boys finally settle the dispute and Masashika closes the matter, asking them to file official requests the next day, while Alia stares in surprised Pikachu. Afterward, they head back to the office and Masashika apologizes for butting in and making her look bad. Alia lets it slide, but asks why he made that proposal, almost as if he knew the soccer manager would offer to volunteer. Masashika is surprised that Alia managed to notice, so she points out that he was staring at her the whole time. That's when Masashika explains that the manager is actually dating the baseball team's captain. Of course, Alia wouldn't notice since she was too busy monologuing, but the baseball captain hadn't said a word the entire time because he was trying to help his girlfriend, but also had to keep his priorities straight. Masashika knew the manager would jump at the proposal and everyone would get a happy ending. The baseball team could lose focus on free gyats, the soccer team could kick each other's balls, and the lovebirds could hit when no one was looking. Masashika spots Kanzaki, who asks them how it all went. Alia says Masashika worked his magic, so Kanzaki commends them, but Masashika calls him out on setting the whole thing up. Kanzaki admits to the allegations and asks if Masashika has finally made up his mind. Masashika commits to swallowing nails and stepping on Legos just to join the student council, so Kanzaki invites him to the office to get started. Later, Alia and Masashika head home while Masashika laments getting played by yet another anime glasses guy. Alia asks if he's joining the council just to run with Yuki for council president, so Masashika asks if she'd give up on being president if he was. However, Alia insists that she'll never back down, even if it means going up against him. Masashika figured she'd say that, so he offers to make her student council president. Alia looks surprised, but Masashika assures her that if that's what she wants, he'll stand with her, and for her, so he stretches out his hand. Alia wipes her tears away and takes his hand, and he announces they're officially a team. However, Alia says something in Russian that reminds him of the Goldilocks from his memory. The familiar feeling makes him smile until he realizes Alia's cutting off the circulation in his hand. Alia asks if he was thinking about another girl, making Masashika realize he's committed one of the sins of the sacred confession scene. She asks if he was thinking about Yuki after promising to be there for her, but even though Masashika denies it, Alia's only way to move forward is to leave a palm print on his face. Afterward, she stretches her hand to help the idiot up. On the way home, Masashika brags that his steez has increased from the slap, but Alia roasts him for having a barely functioning brain. When they arrive at Alia's building, she asks if he's lost feeling in his cheek, but Masashika claims that he's fine. Just then, Alia moves closer and kisses his cheek, shocking him. Alia wonders why he's so surprised, but Masashika can't figure out if that was just cheek to cheek. Alia leaves with zero answers, making Masashika wish she told him what she did in Russian. It turns out that Alia had actually told Masashika she loved him in Russian earlier, and now she's having a full-on meltdown. Even if she loved him, which she refuses to admit, he'd probably just laugh in her face if she confessed. As Alia continues to fight her pillow demon, she hears the door close. When she checks, she sees Maria sitting down, looking like something's bothering her. However, when Alia asks what it is, Maria pulls out the plushie and distracts her with it. As she walks away, she mentions meeting Masashika and understanding why Alia would fall for his ruse. Alia once again denies the allegation, so Maria advises her to confess quickly before someone else steals him away from her. Meanwhile, Masashika starts cringing from the corny ruse he displayed that day. He wonders if Alia's love confession is real, but thanks to some copium overdose, he convinces himself it couldn't be. Then he remembers his parents' frequent roast battles when he was a kid and concludes that love is as useless as Sakura in Team 7. When he returns home, he sees Yuki's shoes outside and figures she probably set him up to join the council. He reluctantly walks in only to find Yuki with her fruit garden on full display. Somehow Masashika doesn't bat an eyelid and accuses her of doing it on purpose. Yuki admits it, and when Masashika asks why she would do it, she explains that they've never had the walking in on her cliché. Masashika didn't think it was possible to be this dumb, but apparently too much plot can give you brain rot. After borrowing some of Masashika's brain cells, she calls it an apology for tricking him into joining the council. However, Masashika calls her brave for thinking her package was enough. When Yuki insists that she saw him checking her out, Masashika reveals that guys prefer sneak peeks to bare cheeks. Yuki takes her L, but insists he looked her up and down, so Masashika cracks and admits he checked out her top half. Later, Yuki dries her hair in his room and asks if Masha and Kanzaki managed to recruit him to the council. He confirms it, then breaks the news about running with Alia for president. Yuki can't believe Alia cucked her like that and laments to God for punishing her with C-cups, while Alia is packing enough cups to end world hunger. Yuki insists that her package is small but mighty, and offers to let him cop a feel, but when Masashika refuses, she says he already took her first squeeze back in elementary school. When he asks if she's serious, Yuki goes straight-faced and narrates a game of tag from their childhood that turned into a game of grab. However, Masashika knows he wouldn't have forgotten if God gave him a miracle. Yuki finally lets up, so Masashika reminds her that she could barely play thanks to her asthma. So Yuki rejoices that she's well now and hands Masashika a brush to make it up to her. While he brushes, he apologizes for picking Alia over her. So Yuki assures him a little sibling rivalry would be great for the plot. After, Yuki tells him he's free to come back to her if Alia's chest burden starts to suffocate him. But Masashika assures her there's no better way to die. Yuki leaves but says she's glad that Masashika finally found someone to motivate him again, though that won't stop her from crushing him like a nut. The next morning, Masashika thinks it's strange that Yuki didn't do something heinous to wake him up, so he imagines that she's still pretty hurt from yesterday's news. He decides to make it up to her, but when he gets up, a hand grabs him and scares the chocolate cream right out of him. Yuki laughs at his sucker face, till she suddenly notices she's stuck since there was no space for dump truck Kun. Masashika takes the opportunity to stuff her face as revenge. So Yuki laments getting stuffed in the face with her unborn nephews and nieces. Later in school, Alia waits nervously for Masashika to arrive. She tries to calm herself, thinking Masashika would probably sleepwalk in as usual. However, Masashika struts in looking rather bright-eyed and sparkly to her surprise. As he talks with the other classmates, Alia's love-struck filter makes him look like Dazai from Bungo Stray Dogs, which she thinks is kind of hot, but she tries to snap out of it. During class, she's surprised to see Masashika wide awake, so she remembers his promise to her and thinks he might be stepping up his game. In gym class, Alia shows an impressive serve while Masashika gets smacked in the head. Later, Masashika nurses his head trauma when Alia shows up to check on him. Alia asks if he'll be heading to the nurse's office, but Masashika assures her it won't be the first time getting balls in the face. Alia decides to play nurse and see for herself, leaving Masashika to see an up-close confirmation of those E-cup allegations. Masashika struggles to control himself, But when Alia starts fiddling with her hair, she gives him a pit view that almost sends his Willy Wonka to make some white chocolate. But on the bright side, this proves his peaks of cheeks theory. Alia suggests they get some water, so they head over to the taps, but when Masashika looks over, he gets excited by how much pressure Alia's throat can take at once. Immediately, Masashika decides to wash away his dirty thoughts and keep his eyes away from the prize. Maria spots them and walks over, wondering why Masashika keeps looking up, but it turns out he's thanking God for gym uniforms. Maria notices how wet he is and uses her towel to dry him off, but in the process, Masashika gets a private screening, which must be God saying you're welcome. Masashika thanks her for the rub and says he knows what a dog feels like now, so Maria starts flirting hard, saying dogs do have the best style. Alia quickly breaks it up and suggests they head back, so Maria waves goodbye as they walk off. As they head back, Masashika prepares to get chewed out by Alia, but to his surprise, she's still concerned about his unfortunate run-in with the balls. Masashika realizes she hasn't caught on to his culture streak, so he assures her he's fine. He then remembers the kiss from last night and wonders if she's becoming lovey-dovey, so he asks why she's being so nice to him. Alia says he's been acting weird all day, so Masashika says he's actually been tweaking cause of his empty stomach. Alia goes red in the face as she realizes Masashika wasn't really paying attention in class. He was just too hungry to sleep. Masashika says he actually slept like a baby, but this only angers Alia, who stayed up overthinking. Alia finally snaps back to her usual tsundere self and looks like she's about to choke the life out of Masashika, but not in a good way. Masashika tries making some jokes to appease her, but Alia storms off, regretting ever worrying about the idiot who she's absolutely not in love with. After their last class, Masashika asks Alia to go to the council office together, but she looks at him like a talking trash heap and silently walks out. On the way, Masashika wonders if he crossed the line when they suddenly notice a group of well-trained simps leaving the office. When Masashika looks inside, he finds a Mikasa variant ready to chop off Erin's head, so he tries to flee, but she pulls him back and apologizes for mistaking him for the baseball and soccer team. Apparently, Chizaki had taught the boys a lesson for ignoring Alia the other day, but she assures them she was gentle with her sword. When Masashika fears for his safety, Chizaki calls Kenzaki to her defense, so Kenzaki assures Masashika that his girlfriend won't get rough with other guys but him. Chizaki literally proves his point by smacking him to disagree, but Kenzaki doesn't mind getting slapped hard. Maria walks in and warns them not to get carried away, so Chizaki apologizes to Kenzaki that she went too hard, and they both make googly eyes at each other. Alia and Masashika start to gossip about whether or not Chizaki has a torture chamber, but when Maria sees how chummy they're being, she teases them for being just as cute. Yuki walks in and apologizes for being late, so Kenzaki officially starts the meeting by asking Masashika to introduce himself. Masashika then states his position and announces